Hi, everyone. Welcome back to week 2 of Joyful Journeys. My name is Catherine Keller, and today I have the absolute pleasure to be joined by Tanya Jaklis. Tanya is a life and leadership coach here in Northern Virginia with her own business, Tanya Jaklis Coaching. And I'm so excited to talk to you today, Tanya, and to hear your insights about self-discovery, well-being, leading confidently, and how all that ties in with what our participants are learning this week. So to start out, could you just tell me a little bit about your journey? What brought you to the line of work you're doing today, and what do you like most about it?
Absolutely. Yeah, Catherine. I'm so glad to be here with you. I'm looking forward to this conversation too. A little bit about my journey. Like you mentioned, I'm a life and leadership coach. I wasn't always a professional coach though I do like to share that I always used to coach. In my family and with friends and even in my professional career. So I spent several years in consulting here in the Northern Virginia area, working with a lot of different clients. So I worked with a lot of teams. I worked with a lot of different clients, delivering on really cool projects. And the one piece of my job that I always loved was the helping people go after their goals and really be successful. And I myself in my career came at a crossroads. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to continue doing in my career. Did I want to stay in consulting? Did I want to do something different? And that's the time when I was learning, I was networking, I was talking to my own mentors, I was talking with colleagues, and people mentioned, have you considered professional coaching? And I did not realize that it was a full-on profession. And I said, tell me more. I want to know about this. So I got really excited and kind of jazzed about being able to do full time what I really, really enjoyed. Out of all of my jobs throughout my career, the one big piece that I really loved was the people aspect, getting to know folks, understanding what really motivates them, what excites them, and helping them, go after their goals and really be successful. And when I learned that there was a professional coaching, that you could do that, I was like, sign me up. So, um, so that's what led me to coaching. And I've been coaching now for a little over 4 years. I went and got certified as a coach. I got coached myself, a lot of practice. Um, and that's how I kind of landed here. That's kind of the short story, but that's kind of my journey to what I'm doing now.
That's awesome, and it sounds like in your journey it involved a lot of self-reflection and kind of figuring out who you were, also on your journey to being able to help others figure out themselves as well. So coincidentally, that's what our middle school participants are going to be doing this week in their curriculum. So, our middle school lessons are really centered around developing that positive self of identity. So this week, our middle schoolers are getting their first look at what we call the girl wheel. So that's their tool for helping them identify all the elements that make them, that influences their whole selves. And so for our listeners out there who might not be familiar, the 5 parts of the girl wheel are brain, heart, social, body, and spirit. And each of those components are made up of things like your decision making, your emotions, your activities, your connections, your dreams, and your values. So, Tanya, I'd love to hear what part of the wheel you're feeling most strongly in today and why. And there's really no wrong answer here. It can change day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so can you actually repeat for me those pieces of the wheel?
Yes. So the pieces are brain, heart, social, body, and spirit.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, I think the biggest one today has been body, like taking care of my body. I actually got up early enough this morning to do a little bit of yoga. I ate a, healthy breakfast. I try to do that every day. It doesn't always happen every day, but today, very kind of focused on nourishing my body so that I could show up to this conversation feeling good, but then also to the other conversations that I have today. So that was definitely something that I woke up feeling very focused on, thinking about ways that I could nourish my body.
I love that. And I would say the same thing because I got a really great night's sleep last night. I'm super hydrated today. Like I am really feeling in tune with myself. So I love that
Mm.
we have that in common, that we've been making sure to take care of ourselves. Um, and so, another concept in our middle school programming and something that we'll be diving into this week is that uh, you have your wheel, I have my wheel, even though, we might both be feeling strongly in the same way today, it could be different, a different day. So everyone might think a little differently, have different passions, be energized by different things. So as a coach, you have to know others just as well as yourself. And could you tell me more about how you're able to fine tune that, show empathy towards others, and help your clients find the right tools to find their own strengths?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love that that is the huge emphasis of the wheel too, is that understanding that everyone's wheel is different, and different things resonate with folks differently, right? So yeah, today you and I are kind of aligned, but it's might be we might nourish our bodies in different ways, for example, and having that awareness and even that the one big thing that I try to employ on a daily basis is a level of curiosity, like really being curious and trying to understand what helps people and what motivates them, and what helps them feel like in that wheel, like what you described, which again, I think is such a good model, to know that there are these different aspects and different activities or different environments might support different areas. And so I think the big thing is around curiosity, bringing that to conversations to try and understand what fuels folks and trying to get that understanding and then having that open dialogue and communication of sharing too of this is what I do, what do you do, or what helps you, because I feel as though when we're able to share with each other and we bring that just genuine curiosity to try and understand others, it helps us not only to like get more information, right, get knowledge, but also to support each other, right? Um it's really wonderful to be able to be heard and seen and then also to be supported. And so knowing more about someone by asking those questions, I think helps to support them in ways that will work for them or that helps them.
Yes, that's so important. Asking questions, it requires a certain amount of curiosity, like you said, but also bravery, being able to get to know that other person and being willing to ask them and be willing to share yourself. And so I know one of the activities that our middle schoolers do as part of learning about the wheel is, trying to guess what encompasses their peers' wheels. And they learn that you kind of have to ask questions and get to know each other. It's really, really hard to just guess it without getting that information, right? So asking those questions, really getting to know each other is so, so important. So I love hearing that you're able to employ that. And I'm sure it's easier on some days than others, but you have to keep going at it. So, switching gears a little bit, I know kids growing up today, they have a lot to navigate through. So I know you work mainly with adults, but why is it so important to have that sense of self established early in life when you're young? Why is it so important to have those tools now?
Yeah. Gosh, I think because when you're young, um, and I have two girls as well, so I can definitely see it also in them and how they're growing up. Um, is that I think so much the foundation. We build our foundation when we're young, right? The things that we hear, the way that we talk to ourselves, the relationships that we build. I think we all learn that as we're growing up and as young adults. And so I think it's so important because it really does lay the foundation for adulthood. Things kind of stick, right? When we hear things over and over again, or when we practice certain habits or certain tools, right? Those become a part of who we are. And so really focusing on that and fostering it, I think at a young age is so important because I will say, like you mentioned, I work mostly with adults, but and for myself included, I feel like as adults, it's much harder for us to learn new things than when we were younger. So, and again, speaking for myself, right, it's a bit more challenging. And so I think taking the opportunity to learn some of these healthy habits, healthy ways of talking to ourselves at a young age, I think lays a really, really solid foundation that allows us to grow into, healthy adults and ones that are that have a foundation to kind of lay back on.
Absolutely. And I love hearing also, exactly how it translates to what you see as a parent of two young kids as well, and how they're able to have that support early on to develop that sense of identity and really be able to feel strongly as they become adults. Because, I feel the same way that, it's a lot harder to learn those things now as an adult, and having that really good foundation is so important, and also just really helps you be able to formulate that path and decide what you want to do with your life, and feel really solid in the decisions that you make, and feel confident in yourself. So I know that we probably have a number of adult listeners listening in today who are thinking to themselves, hey, it's been a little while since I turned my focus inward and reflected on myself. So what advice do you have for those adults who are looking to reacquaint themselves with their wheel? Maybe it's been a while since they've tuned into that self-identity. What would be something that you would advise them to get into that?
Yeah, yeah. The one big thing that I feel is so important is taking those few minutes, even if it's, and I know we have so many responsibilities, right, as parents, as professionals, that sometimes finding that time to go inward or to focus on ourselves is is challenging, right? And it also, I will say, takes courage. I know you mentioned that earlier in our conversation, but it takes courage to ask the question of like, what do I need? What do I need to feel well? What do I need to be at my best? And so the one big thing that I would say is even just taking a few minutes, if it's at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, of like asking yourself the question, like getting curious with yourself. It's like, what's really important for me today? Right? That might be, making sure I drink enough water today, right? Or making sure I get out and take a walk, right? Or connecting with a friend, whatever it might be. And like we've talked about, it's going to be different for everybody. But I would say finding a few minutes, maybe it's in the morning when you have your coffee, of like, what do I need today? What's my priority today? And also, I guess the second question would be like, how am I feeling today? So I would say those two questions, like, what's my priority today? What's important to me today? And then also, how am I feeling today? And that, I think that second question really prompts us to kind of go inward and be able to just really acknowledge, like, and being honest with no judgment. It's just
Mm-hmm.
bringing that level of curiosity and not judging, but seeing what comes up. And oftentimes, it's surprising, and just gives a little added insight, right? And then just follow that, bring that curiosity and follow what comes up.
Yeah,
So,
and I know that's such great advice, and it really ties into the activities that we do with our participants, both at the elementary school level and the middle school level, where that first question I asked you, or the second question, I guess, the what part of the wheel do you feel strong in today, is a good spot to start. Where are you feeling strong? And then what are some of the areas of the wheel that maybe you haven't paid as much attention to? If you set it on a piece of paper and write a couple things under each area, what has the shortest list, and what might you be able to focus on? But really knowing what you're doing well in, and what you want to focus on and improve in is important, because it's all about finding that balance, and also being able to congratulate yourself for the ways that you've been taking care of yourself. So such great advice, and I think our listeners hopefully out there are excited as I am to lean into some of that self-care in this coming week, and nurturing themselves. So it's been so inspiring to chat with you today, Tanya, not only for your support of our program, but for all you do to build up our community members to invest in themselves. So thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure.
thank you. It's been great. I really enjoyed this conversation. It's actually reminded me of a lot of things for myself as well. And so I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And so for our listeners, thank you for being with us. That wraps up week 2 of Joyful Journeys. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next week.
This episode of Joyful Journeys is brought to you by Girls on the Run of Northern Virginia.